Let's talk about the FA Cup quarter-finals. We will start with Bournemouth 1, Manchester City 2. Those citizens reached their 7th FA Cup semi-final in a row. It's the magic of the cup, Jim.
Yeah, wherever could this be going? That is a remarkable statistic.
It is.
Yeah, it is. It suggests that they might be able to win this just from some sort of sense memory, like regardless of how bad this season's been for them.
The only thing that undermines that as an amazing statistic is that you have to just remind yourself they lost a final to Eric Ten Hag's Man United.
That's true. That is true.
It's quite weird to think.
But can you think of better motivation to put that right?
No. You can't think about... No, absolutely not. And you're right, Jim, there is a kind of dangerous and also... It's not very often that something is both dangerous and depressing.
And boring.
At the same time. But this is dangerously, depressingly boring as an inevitability, isn't it?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very, very much so.
You've got to give him credit, though, the way they came back into the game.
I'll tell you who I do give credit to.
Pep Guardiola.
Well, partly.
Noel Gallagher.
Really. No, absolutely not.
He made the big trip down to Bournemouth.
I'm not giving him any credit.
Okay. Liam for not being there.
If a genie came down and gave me 3 wishes...
Right. Careful. Come on.
One of the wishes would be...
Don't upset me.
That Noel Gallagher is not allowed to involve himself in any football project ever again.
Okay, fine.
So no TalkSport, no stupid writing on the back of kits, no Man City stuff.
Right.
No. Does he support Man City, Noel Gallagher?
I believe so.
Yeah. Is Ricky Gervais an atheist?
I believe so.
I didn't want to give
Alistair Campbell's into football as well.
I think he might be, yeah. I don't want to give any credit to Noel Gallagher. I will give some credit to Pep Guardiola because it feels churlish not to at this point.
Especially in the light of that comparison.
But what I was originally going to say was...
did more.
What I was originally going to say was I'd like to give an enormous amount of credit to Nico O'Reilly.
Oh, yeah.
Who was fantastic. And that pass, though, to Erling Haaland was absolutely fucking amazing.
Delish.
It was amazing, and it's absolutely smacked of a young lad who's through osmosis just incorporating what Kevin De Bruyne used to represent.
Yeah, I know. He was given man of the match, and he only played a half.
Yeah.
That shows you how pedestrian they were in the first half, but how good he was in the second half.
I'm sure. I'll say I'm sure. I can't remember any of the protagonists involved. At one point, there was for some reason, I've got Cesc Fabregas in my mind.
Right.
At one point, it might have been Cesc Fabregas for Chelsea at one point, came off the bench for, I think, under half an hour and got man of the match once. I think it can be done. It has been done.
It can be done. He might have done the same thing in a game against Aston Villa that Arsenal won 3-0.
Maybe that's what I'm remembering.
It could well be that. I mean, Nico O'Reilly... Guardiola did say that he is a number 10, really. That's his position.
He's an absolutely fantastic player. Him and McAtee. I know McAtee had a slightly quieter time of it when he came on. They both look brilliant.
Yeah.
And I said 3 months ago, play them. Just play them. Because everyone else looks listless at this point. Play them.
Yes. Learn your Cole Palmer mistake.
Yes.
And although, I mean, some fans might say that's not a mistake. They needed... balance the books and all that kind of stuff. But I mean,
for every Cole Palmer, there's a Phil Foden.
Well, that's right. I mean, with the youngsters that they have at their disposal, they're clearly good enough. The way they're schooled in the Man City Academy is something else. We know it's state-of-the-art facilities.
Yeah, I mean, you see their players pop up at other clubs all the time, at a really high level, of course, yeah. But I mean, he looks like the latest one off the production line, doesn't he?
Well, that's right. In that sort of... because he comes on at, left back? And then, but apparently he's best at number 10, and you just think, if you have...
What's happening?
Well,
what's happening to the terrible traditions of this country?
I know, it's shocking. Down the wing and cross it. But no, I think...
I felt watching him, I felt like what I watched when I was watching the Baller League. I understand what this is supposed to be, but what's happening?
This was a lot better.
Yeah.
This was actual football.
Do you want to hear a little... Sorry to cut this off, but do you want to hear a little insight into how the Baller League's going so far?
I'd love to.
2 separate people offered me tickets over the weekend on WhatsApp.
Right.
Yeah.
And presumably...
I said no.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I said no.
Okay.
Yeah.
But with Nico O'Reilly and all these the Man City Academy graduate, Rico Lewis is another one. You think is Guardiola just he's making them just watch like Johan Cruyff's Netherlands, all right? Because you feel like these players can play any position, and he could have it could be like proper total football stuff if it goes this way. Because again, he comes on at left back. Very much out of position, yet looks very much at home there. A glorious footballer, and I say footballer because that's what he is.
He is absolutely,
and it plays an enormous part in winning them the game because they were 1-0 down at half time. Bournemouth were in the ascendancy. The tails were up. They'd scored, obviously. And Erling Haaland missed a penalty. Kepa was playing his part.
Great save. It's rare that you see a penalty held, isn't it?
Yes. And that shows you how much he pounced to one side, because Haaland is not one to wait for the goalkeeper.
No.
It's a kind of interminable dilemma, Jim, to know whether it's a great save or it's a very, very poor pen. And is it half of column A, half of column B?
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not really near the corner, is it? So you probably put it down as more of a bad pen than a good save.
I think if the goalkeeper is holding it,
Something's gone very wrong.
It's a fucking shit pen.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got to be seen as a shit pen.
Third miss of the season from the spot for Haaland.
Yeah, I think out of
Surprising.
6. I wouldn't say it was a shit pen.
Mate.
Because, no, a shit pen doesn't hit the target.
If a keeper gets to catch it, it's as bad as missing the target.
But I think with Haaland, though, as I say, for a guy who takes so many penalties in the modern era, in this day and age, he just hits it into one corner. You know, even Harry Kane, who was very effective at doing that, he has now mixed it up and thought, okay, the stuttery pen, wait for the keeper to move. So I'm surprised Haaland hasn't adapted. Perhaps we will see him do that.
But I think that's the problem. So you're getting to the very nub of it here, and we're getting very forensic, which I'm very happy to do.
Right.
I think you've hit on something there, but what you've got to understand and fully appreciate as well is if you are going to do that penalty technique, you have to strike it hard. It has to be in the corner. And he struck it quite softly and it wasn't in the corner.
But I think that Kepa knows that with Haaland, you've essentially got two options as the keeper. I know this sounds a bit ridiculous, but he's either going to go into the left corner or the right corner. He's not going to stick it down the middle. That's what he's going to do. So if you launch yourself one way, you don't have to wait and think, is he going to wait for me to stop? Because, you know, take Rashford's penalty. We'll come on to that. You think, what's he going to do? And he scored. Kepa can just launch one way, and that's perhaps why he holds it, is because he has completely thrown everything he's got into going to one of the corners. But yeah, ultimately, yes, if the keeper catches it, I take the point it's a poor penalty because he's not got the power there. But I think we should give credit to the goalkeeper for. I think
goalkeepers do endlessly, and probably rightly so, get credit for saving any penalty they save.
Yes,
and that's fair enough.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, you know, to wrap this up in a nice tidy little bow,
right.
If the goalkeeper's able to hold on to it, you should hang your head as a penalty taker.
He did also miss a couple of chances in that first half. But the fact is, City were creating chances, though. So I understand.
He ended up scoring with his right foot.
He did.
Which is very surprising.
Yeah.
He's quite a one-footed player.
Yeah.
Not very surprising. That's too much. Yeah. I saw your face when I said very surprising. It's not very surprising because he scored 1 million goals.
He's got a big tally of goals.
But he does heavily favour his left foot.
But what did you think at half-time in the game? Did you think, Bournemouth, you know...
Well, to be honest, I know it's going to sound like I'm after timing, and obviously, Jim, chime in if you felt differently, but I felt like the volume of... I think he missed 3 decent chances, including the penalty in the first half, Haaland.
Yes. No, that's fair to say.
City had double the ball Bournemouth did, and given Bournemouth's position in the current position of the season they're in... because we said this last week as well. I did kind of say it before the game. You know, this is a nice time to be playing Bournemouth. They're running out of steam. It felt a bit not inevitable. That's too strong, but it felt very likely City would find something, and it took a really exuberant, talented, energetic young sub off the bench to make things happen. But I mean, that's the name of the game in football. You know, you get to bring on subs. So I thought, I was pleased that Bournemouth for a goal up because I thought it was interesting. I liked the goal they scored. Bournemouth. It was great presence of mind by Justin Kluivert. Good work from 1 or 2 other players. But I thought at half time, this is unlikely to go Bournemouth's way, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think as well, missing Howson and Kirkes was massive in this particular game, and it's. Obviously Bournemouth don't have the same resources as Man City, as we know, so they don't have the same depth. And I also can't say I was that surprised that City turned it around.
And Bournemouth have spent a few quid,
Sure.
But I understand the point you're making. Speaking of state-of-the-art facilities, they've just got a new training ground, haven't they, Bournemouth? Look pretty impressive. But it's a quarter-final finish ultimately from Bournemouth, which does equal
their record, right?
their best in the FA Cup. But I don't think any Bournemouth fan will take any kind of consolation.
That'll be a bus tour.
Yeah,
and I think given his record in the FA Cup with Bournemouth, I'm sure Harry Redknapp will be saluting them.
Yes. With which hand?
Up to him.
Could do both, just to be on the safe side. Which one is it again? It is a shame for Bournemouth because they've had a great season. And
have they had a great season? Have they, though? Is it a great season?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you not think they've had a great season so far?
It kind of...
Well, that's not what first of all, that's not what you said. You've immediately just changed the parameters of the question there.
I mean, they're 10th now. And if they finish 10th, I don't think I think it will go down as a disappointing season that threatened to be a great season.
Well, okay.
It'll be a good season.
It depends which way you look at it, because last couple of seasons in the Premier League finished 15th and then 12th.
Mm-hmm.
If they improve upon that,
Yes.
you could say it's a great season for them because they've not finished higher than that before. I think their record. I think their record in the Premier League might be 9th. Actually, they're just about finished 9th. So yes, it would be great from that point of view. But you've got to look at the context. You've got to look how they started. The stories we were telling everyone, it maybe in September, October, whenever, was that it's Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth who are doing amazingly here.
Yes.
Now we're not saying that. They've dropped off badly. They've reverted to type. They've found a lower level. And they've had the chance to do something quite extraordinary. Easier said than done, of course, but they're going to come nowhere near that extraordinary level now. So I guess it depends which way you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, they are just 4 points off Man City in 5th in the league. But
Sure.
I understand 4 points in among those teams can be.
But they're in no kind of form at all in the league.
Which is a shame because, as I say, they're not playing too badly. It's just putting away the chances, really. But on Manchester City's point of view, I mean, on reaching 7 semi-finals in a row, Pep Guardiola said, "I'm sorry to tell you, but this is outstanding." when he goes for a bit of sarcasm and then a bit of, you didn't like it, did you?
Yeah.
This generation of players, they have done this. And Guardiola, you saw what it meant to him on the sideline when he was getting very animated.
And rightly so.
And rightly so, because
This is the last beacon of hope for them this season.
well, it is, and he said that winning this cup would not salvage the season. And people were saying, but the way you were celebrating. It's like, well, both things can be true.
Yeah.
Of course, if they did win the FA Cup, I mean, they just won 4 Premier Leagues in a row. So winning the FA Cup is not as good as winning the league. However, winning the FA Cup would still be...
Also,
What do people expect him to do? Like turn up to the final and go, you know what, we've been shit. Call this one off. You guys can win 3-0. This is on us.
Also, who's put the celebration police in charge again?
Yeah.
Fuck them off. Who cares?
I know, yeah.
They're just absolute people who say that kind of stuff. Just absolute dicks.
That's true.
And unless you're saying it for comedic effect, it's pointless. Oh, you can't believe you won the World Cup again, have you? People celebrate wins. There's a lot of fucking defeat in football.
Yeah.
People celebrate wins.
And
That's how it is.
It's only about the set of fans who are celebrating. No one else matters.
Exactly.
Yes. And depending on the findings in the investigation, there will be celebrations. whichever way it goes.
Exactly.
Maybe we'll all get a piece of the pie.
Yeah,
They will.
Maybe every city in the country will be like Newcastle was. People like lampposts. Ole, 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 ole. Lord Panic. Imagine that.
Yeah.
I'm just speculating. I mean, I'm neutral because I'm on the football show, so I'm neutral.
Neutral.
Sure.
I've got no dog in this
Well,
fight.
you're
Ever so
professional.
neutral.
We're all professional
Listen,
here.
I think if people have committed administrative errors
Yeah.
that cross over the border into crimes, financial crimes, then I think they should be punished to the full extent of the law, Marcus. It's not up to me. I'm not on the case. I've got no legal qualifications whatsoever.
No.
Yeah.
But you've got big opinions.
As my notes here say.
Anyway, Manchester City will play Nottingham Forest in the next round, which is the semi-final. Of course, we're going to talk about Forest and Brighton in a bit. No, before we go for a break, Luke.
Oh.
You and I.
Oh.
Whoa. We're
halfway there.
We're going to pop up on the old Ramble YouTube channel this afternoon, where we are going to predict who will win this season's FA Cup.
Which was your idea that I'm against.
Yeah.
But I'll do it.
Thanks. It's all about teamwork, isn't it? Yeah. I believe we're gonna rank the teams in order
cool.
of who we think are going to win.
Sounds good.
Not who we hope we're going to win. That would be a different order, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Because I kind of hope none of them win it.
None of them?
Yeah.
You want Pompey to come from nowhere, like they did that time?
Yeah. No.
Okay. Well, anyway, do check out.
Check it out.
Football Ramble.
It'll be a great chat.
YouTube.
It'll be a great chat.
It'll be a lovely little chat. You'll see our faces. You'll see Luke's tash.
Join everyone else on the fastest growing YouTube channel in football.
Let's extrapolate that to the universe.
I think it is the fastest growing YouTube channel in football, and there's a reason for that. And you should find out what the reason is by subscribing.
Football and chat. Everybody loves it.
It's the moustache, Jim. It's the naked moustache on my top lip.
It is absolutely that. Coming up after this, Jean-Philippe Mateta and his new ear return.
Sandro Tonali! Sandro Tonali! He eats spaghetti, he loves morrete, he hates fucking Sandro!
Well, back to the Football Ramble, everybody. Pete Donaldson there.
It can't be Pete Donaldson because Pete Donaldson can definitely pronounce Moretti.
He can.
Yeah.
He can. Thanks to friend of the Ramble, Carlos Alberto, for sending us that clip.
Fellow Brazilian, probably, by the sound of it.
May well be.
Yeah.
Luke Moore.
Yeah.
One of them scored a goal in a World Cup final. You can become a friend of the Ramble too by heading over to patreon.com/Football Ramble. You'll get access to the Discord where you can chat with us and other Ramble listeners. Ad-free episodes of the Ramble will be yours, and our brand new bonus content every single Wednesday, all for just $5 a month. So head to patreon.com/Football Ramble and sign up. Now, before we go back to the FA Cup, let's talk about that Newcastle United bus parade. Roughly 300,000 Newcastle fans turned out for the Carabao Cup winning bus tour parade. I mean, that's not far off the population of the whole city, isn't it?
Yeah, so apparently Newcastle upon Tyne has a population, according to 2021 figures, of 300,100.
Yeah.
So 100 people stayed home.
Yeah.
Who are they? Name and shame them.
I did it. They were pulling pints, presumably.
Yeah.
Like someone's got to operate the pubs.
It's an incredible turnout.
It was,
Yeah.
And, you know,
Unbelievable. It's like a literal emptying of the city into itself.
great night for robbers. Great night
Huge,
for burglars.
yeah, massive.
No, I think there would have been an amnesty. I think they would have been at the
been
parade.
there.
Yeah.
Maybe other people would have robbed them.
Yeah, could have.
Yeah, and the stripes are the other way as well, so they really stand out.
Yeah.
True, actually. Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah. Dress up the Hamburglar.
Yeah. The scenes in Newcastle were stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, it was not as mad as this because I don't think we'll ever see
That's
the likes of
Argentina in World Cup.
Buenos Aires.
Same energy.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
that, wasn't it? It was.
Do you remember the big fat fella trying to climb up the bus stop?
Oh, class.
That was pretty.
That was in
this is
Buenos Aires.
Argentina, yeah.
We should say.
I'm not ruling it out being the case.
They were all chanting, ole, 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 gordo,
Yeah,
gordo, which is
yeah.
fatty, you know, in Spanish, basically. He was scrambling up
But
there.
in Newcastle,
he got there, he made it.
He did.
Yeah.
In Newcastle, there were people climbing lampposts.
Yeah, you got to get up the lamppost.
All sorts going on.
It was absolutely outstanding stuff. Piff Posse will be happy, won't they?
Well, that's part of it, isn't it? I mean,
It is.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
Newcastle fans listening to this will roll their eyes here, or some of them at least. But you have to say that. I mean, that's part of the project. That's part of the point of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you can make the whole city really, really happy and understand that you've helped bring this in for the first time in a long time. Particularly domestically in terms of a trophy, then that's part of it. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. It doesn't mean that we're blaming the fans for it. It doesn't mean we're blaming the players for doing their job, whatever. But that is part of it. I'm pleased that Newcastle United fans who've gone a long time without being able to celebrate anything, and they've had some really tough times, are able to celebrate this. And boy, did they celebrate it. But, you know, that's how it goes.
What was Mark Ashley doing? Well, that was
I wonder what he was doing.
I think he was unaware.
Do you reckon he watched the game on telly?
No. I think he was just like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
Probably drinking along as if he was there, just coincidentally.
Quite
You can't
possibly.
have a go at a man for having a beer.
No, but I can have a go at a man for
Especially
power
after your-
drinking
especially
and then
after your
throwing up
weekend.
into a fireplace.
After
Yeah.
your weekend, Jim.
You can have a go at man for drinking that amount of beers, though.
You can.
Yeah. Right, I'm stalling. Let's get on with it then. Fulham 0, Crystal Palace 3. I'm just happy a London club went through.
I was confused. I was confused with my local club, by the way. I was really, really confused because Jean-Philippe Mateta appeared to have a similar sized ear.
Yes.
And we exclusively revealed on Friday it was going to be a new
Bionic
giant ear.
ear,
Yeah,
yeah.
bionic ear.
It wasn't.
It was
that.
under the padding, so it might be massive under there.
Oh,
We
so
don't
maybe-
really know.
Maybe he's only going to unveil it for the final.
Unless that was the ear.
Yeah. Imagine if the protective thing slipped off and this very slowly this big ear just unfolded stage at a time.
Well, I think if the game had been closer, I think they would have pulled that out the bag.
And he scored the winner and he went to Hulk Hogan it with the giant ear.
Do you know what? I
To the Fulham fans. You couldn't hold it against
No,
him.
I'd have to applaud that.
He debuted a moustache as well with,
Yeah.
with a new look.
That's what
How
everyone's
you
doing
feeling about that?
I'm very happy with it. Yeah, good to get some support from the great guy.
Yeah. And we can now call you a trailblazer.
Yeah,
because
the first time ever.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, on the protection of Mateta's ear, Glasner said it's like a water polo helmet. In water polo, it's so they don't get water into their ears. He has it or just on one side. It's crazy, but we are used to it. And he put himself about Mateta. I mean, it wasn't the game. You know, it wasn't about him because he was just occupied a lot of the time by the defenders. But he did all right.
Yeah.
But he was all about Eberechi Chiesa. I
Yeah.
mean.
What a goal!
So
what
good.
a goal that was!
It was just a moment of sheer class and quality, and I had a fantastic view of it. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's England's. I mean, great week for him, of course, scored his first goal for England and then doing that. But the game up till then, anyone who watched the game would have seen Fulham were very much on the front foot for those sort of 25 minutes or whatever and didn't make it count. They had... Muniz had a chance which he crafted himself, which might have done better, although I think Dean Henderson would have been equal to it. Pereira had a chance, but again, I felt that Palace was still comfortable defending.
Yeah, it wasn't like they were kind of fending off good shots left, right, and centre, was it? But they seemed to kind of have the better of the possession and seemed to essentially be setting the agenda, being in control. But that goal really changed the run of it, and it was a bit against the run of play. But Palace just seized it after that. Really took control of it.
Yeah.
Well, it was also the fact that Fulham didn't really respond, and they can see again straight away. And then it's a mountain to climb.
Yeah.
And then really you are it's a knockout game, of course, so you're having to take chances. You're having to try and do something a bit different. And it was just an astonishingly flat performance from Fulham.
Well, after the goal went in, and I think that was the thing, is that they were, as I say, sort of in control, but, control being not looking like conceding, they've got more of the ball, looking more likely. But as I say, Palace know their jobs, and Palace are a team in form.
And they're really well balanced as well.
They're well balanced, they're well drilled, they get it and they're comfortable. I mean, that back three, with Gay, Lacroix and Richards.
Big Chris Richards.
Yeah.
Just heading stuff away all day.
Yeah, but it's a good back three, that. It's a very, very good back three.
I also think...
And they've got the protection in front of them as well.
They have. I also think that it was ruthlessly efficient from Palace. They're so competitive as well. Yeah. They get right on the edge. They snap at people. Yeah. They're happy to pick up a yellow card. Adam Wharton kind of trod the line.
Well, he was lucky, I think.
Yeah, but I think like with that particular game, I think a lot of them were. They picked up 3 or 4 bookings. A lot of them were really playing on the edge.
Actually, because Will Hughes wasn't there to do.
Yeah,
he normally gets 3 or 4 bookings a game against Fulham.
But you have to also concede that key players for Fulham really underperformed. That it was, and what I mean by that is, you're right to say Fulham had more of the ball. They had so much of the ball,
but they didn't do anything.
They didn't do anything. Anthony Robinson, Sasa Lukic, Willian, Berger as well.
Yeah.
They couldn't impose themselves on the game at all.
And it's rare to say that about Anthony Robinson, actually. I thought about that watching him play. It's probably the least effective time I've seen him play this season.
But that shows you how well Palace...
Yeah, exactly.
This is the thing, Palace had the blueprint. They went there at Craven Cottage and won 2-0 in the league and were just totally on top. And it just seemed to me that Glasner, who the fans absolutely loved, they were singing his name all throughout, and rightly so, he's got the better of a lot of teams in this calendar year, certainly.
They've been brilliant this year.
Crazy to think the start they had at the season, but I mean, slightly reminiscent of last season, you would say.
Very unsettled summer they had.
Yes, indeed, and players coming back and obviously losing Elise and so on and so forth.
Possibly they spent half the summer worrying whether they're going to lose Gay.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this summer will probably be the same with he and Eze, won't it?
Yeah, but now they've got the bit between the teeth, and you wouldn't want to face them in the FA Cup. But when all said and done, like I say, they were comfortable. And when Eze, because I had a perfect view of it, when he was it Sasa Lukic who was trying to marshal him, or whoever it was? I think it was Lukic. Forgive me if that's wrong. When Eze just knocks it and he gets that bit of space, I just went, oh, well, you've just got to hope this comes off the post. Or goes just wide, or Leno produces a world-class save. The ruthlessness and the brilliance of that, it was absolutely top draw, that goal, because it comes out of nothing and it changes the whole thing immediately.
Yeah. He really stands out live, doesn't he, Eze?
I've
seen him play in person a few times.
Totally.
And you can see that he's a cut above your kind of common or garden Premier League footballer.
Yeah. I remember seeing him. I actually saw him play at Loftus Road.
Oh yeah,
it's obviously years ago, and he was fucking amazing. I was like, he's miles better than everyone else here.
But this is the great thing.
QPR do a good line in that. They've got Tarat. They've got a really good creative player at the moment called Elias Chair. Probably not quite in the same bracket as those two, but I mean, QPR seem to be able to find players like that, and they really relish playing there.
And Palace as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the move to Palace has obviously worked brilliantly for him. I love the fact that goal. The shape on the ball, the fact that it stayed so low was really nice. Technically, it's so good.
But again, when he produces that moment, it's kind of like, are there any Fulham players who could do something like that? I'm not sure there is. Like Fulham, Willian's a good player, but he's ageing. You don't need to go through the rest of the team, and that's the thing for Fulham is they are a little bit blunt in attack at times.
Yeah.
And Raul Jimenez has chipped in and Muniz has chipped in. But that's where they'll need to strengthen in the summer, really.
I think Emile Smith-Rowe was supposed to be that, right?
He was supposed to unlock the door a little bit, and he's done okay, but it's not. Not
it's
quite
a jar,
there.
isn't it? But it's not quite open yet.
I think you're entitled. I think Fulham fans. I mean, it's early days still, really, but I think Fulham fans would be entitled to be disappointed with Smith-Rowe's contribution so far, because respectfully, he's making a step down, and they were clearly. They were delighted they could get him.
Yeah, totally.
They bring him in, and they're probably within their rights to be thinking we can build a team around this guy now, because he's had injury problems. Arsenal's maybe partly because of his injury problems, partly because of the other quality around at Arsenal. He's just not quite there to be relied upon. Makes perfect sense to come down to Fulham, however many places down the Premier League, but still a big team who can achieve things there.
Yeah.
And he's just not quite got going. I'm not saying he's not a good player.
No, I think
there's still time ahead of him.
I think you're probably right.
I actually think it's disappointing what he's been able to do so far.
I think you're probably right to say that.
We did miss out on seeing something great, referring back to the Jean-Philippe Mateta situation. It sounds like neither of you are aware of it. Oliver Glasner said, in terms of the headgear he was wearing, there were 3 different ones. He tried one like he used to ride a motorbike, but he couldn't train with this because it was too heavy. So I personally am very disappointed that we've not seen that. How cool would that look?
I wonder what the laws are of the game to say that can you wear an NFL helmet? Just bludgeon your way through. Wow, that'd be incredible.
Maybe if they win the cup with the victory parade, get him on the bike and the whole thing down the old. I think Palace. It was a brilliant afternoon for them. The fans were in good voice, and I think again that they're just really enjoying watching their team. And there's a unity with the side. And Lacroix himself at the back has really taken to it. The relationship he in particular has with the fans is like just obviously my team Fulham, but you're a football fan before you're a Fulham fan. That's how I see it anyway. And it was amazing to see that.
But also, I mean, Crystal Palace, they just do have a very good connection with their fan base.
Yeah, I think
it's just part of it there.
But he leads the march from what I could see.
Yeah, I can believe that. They do a lot of outreach stuff, do a lot of community stuff. They are a good club, Palace.
Yeah, I think so. And they're a likable side. And you're absolutely right. I saw our friend Ben Bailey-Smith, a.k.a. Doc Brown. He was. I saw him cycling over Putney Bridge.
He cycles everywhere.
Getting a few whoops from the supporters.
Was he really?
I did. I thought to myself,
celebrity Palace fan. I'll tell you, they haven't got many Palace, have they?
They haven't got many.
Scraping the barrel there.
Well, will he produce a new cup final song if they make it all the way?
That'd be good,
like he did last time.
Well, they play Villa in the next round, right?
They do play
semi-final, so you've got a real opportunity there.
They do, yeah.
And I think with Palace, clearly they are perfectly set up to play away from home and play in a reactive way. And I think it depends on how the semi-final is approached by both teams.
Yeah.
To see if they can get past Villa in the next round, because obviously Emery's a brilliant coach as well, and he'll be thinking, do we really want to take the game to Palace? Because it's a real kind of make your mind up time for them. Because if Emery goes, you know what, we're better than them, we can beat them, we're taking the game to them. That's kind of what Palace want, right? But if you sit back, will Palace know what to do? So it's a really interesting semi-final, that one.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and with the mood Palace are in, and the fact that they've never won a major trophy,
and they've come close. They've never won the FA Cup even. They've come close to the FA Cup. Yeah, really close. Well, probably closer than anyone.
Well, that's the only the only major silverware that they've been very close to. I think they'd have a lot of goodwill on their side too.
Would we see the Pardew dance from Oliver Glasner?
I hope not. I hope we see the Pardew dance from Pardew. Jim, make your own minds up.
Just in his own house.
He'll be at the game.
Probably on a webcam.
Yeah.
The thing that you've got to be encouraged by if you're a Crystal Palace fan as well is that Oliver Glasner knows what it takes to take an unfancy team to a trophy. Obviously, Eintracht Frankfurt won the Europa League under him. So clearly the pedigree is there. It's an exciting time. You'd definitely rather play Villa than play Manchester City as well. So when you get into the final, it's anyone's game, as Newcastle showed.
And if Eddie Nketiah is coming on and scoring goals as well, then you're on for a good thing. Right, coming up after this is Marcus Rashford back to his best. Back to the FA Cup quarter-finals, everybody. Brighton 0, Nottingham Forest 0. Of course, Forest won 4-3 on penalties, and Forest will play Manchester City in the semi-finals. Not a classic, this one. Some people were annoyed that Nuno rested one or two of his bigger stars. Wayne Rooney was furious.
Absolutely furious.
Roo was furious with Nu.
That's his perfect job, Wayne Rooney. Just sit in a studio being furious.
But the great thing, though,
But calmly furious.
Yeah.
But if he was ever to express that anger to Nuno Espirito Santo's face, Nuno knows what to do. Get a big old fish and just dangle it in front of Rooney's face, because apparently he's a bit scared of big fish.
It is the big fish, isn't it? That he claimed he didn't like. Because
That's
Gary
interesting.
Lineker sort of dobbed him in about this with very little context.
Gary Lineker's a weird broadcaster these days.
Yeah,
I think it's just a lot of weird
sort of
stuff.
does what he likes, doesn't he? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does, doesn't he?
No, he does. Yeah, they said that during the match or something that a revelation was that Wayne Rooney's scared of fish, and he just went, I just don't like him.
Yeah.
And then he went, and then he wanted to clarify, and he went, it's the big ones. I was like, sharks? Yeah, we're all scared of sharks.
I'm disappointed in that because, for a long time I thought he essentially just looks like a whaler. So I've been able to picture him.
He does
on
look like a
fishing boat.
whaler.
Yeah, but then I think that's...
And it tainted that a bit.
But do you not think that's what it is? So he goes out to confront them.
Yeah.
And he knows how dangerous they are.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, he's got running battles with these beasts.
Exactly. You think sharks are a bit tasty. You should have a fight with one of them. Then you truly know what fear of sharks would be.
It's reminiscent of a story that happened in my family years ago. My late uncle, he was getting a load of stick from my mum at a family event once for being phobic and frightened of rats.
Oh, right.
Right.
And she kept digging at him. My mum is his older sister, so she was just teasing him in front of the family over and over again about rats. So you're scared of rats, you're phobic of rats, whatever. And he was quite a quiet guy. And then eventually he just snapped. And he just went, I'm not frightened of rats. I'm frightened of a group of rats with a king rat at the front. It was like a very specific phobia.
Does he mean a rat king?
No, because that's when their tails will get tied together. That's different. It turned out that he was frightened of a group of rats with a leader rat.
Was this
specifically?
What, in the Portsmouth area?
I think,
Did this group go round?
I don't think they existed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
I think he
Just
just
the concept of
the
this.
prospect
The
of it,
idea of it. Oh, fair enough.
so Rooney's obviously clarified that as well.
But I don't know how big the fish, because again, if it's a shark, fair. If it's a pike, it's kind of like, come on.
I rate Rooney because he is calm. He is very he's almost like a Buddha, like a Scouse Buddha.
Yeah.
With a beard. But
is like that.
you get the impression. So when I see the Buddha and I hear about the Buddha, I don't ever think that, if you push the buttons, though, Buddha, he can go.
Yeah.
Rooney can definitely go.
Oh, absolutely.
He'd go.
Well, we saw him going in the street, didn't we, in London?
He'd pull people apart.
Yeah.
He'd squeeze Lineker's head like a melon.
Whatever that video game is with Cristiano Ronaldo as a playable character, get Rooney in there as well.
Big fan.
That's what I'm buying that if Rooney's in there.
He'd just be wheezing, wouldn't he, halfway through the first fight? Like,
I should
wheezing
clarify,
away.
when I said he went in the streets of London, he was
Fighting.
spotted taking a piss against a wall after a night out.
Oh, okay, I haven't seen that.
Have you not?
Yeah.
No.
He's on the phone while
recent?
doing it as well.
Yeah, on the phone
Yeah,
as well.
multitasking.
I hope he's got some antibiotic wipes or something, some antiseptic wipes.
I hope he was streaming it for his OnlyFans.
He certainly was
Streaming
it.
something.
But it's good.
But yeah.
It's always good to see Rooney in the studio.
It
Let's
is.
agree on that.
We're all agreed on that, definitely.
Because Rooney, presumably Rooney was like a bit of a bête noir for Arsenal.
Yeah. I guess.
But it's like Keane was, right? And yet, but when they retire, you like him in the studio.
Yeah. There's no problem there.
There's no beef.
Nah.
There's no beef. It was also nice to see Forest back in a penalty shootout in the FA Cup.
Oh, they love it. They do love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're just playing to their strengths because, Matt Sells, let's play for penalties.
Yeah. Nuno was a goalkeeper, right? It's his time to shine.
It is his time to shine, absolutely, yeah. I mean, as I say, not a great game this. Sells made a brilliant save, of course, late on in the game to keep it at 0-0. And, this is the thing, like, when the draw was made, as a Fulham fan, you think to yourself, my goodness, this is a chance because Liverpool are not in it, Arsenal not in it, Newcastle are not in it. Some of the big sides are not there. Of course, you've got some, all teams, well, bar Palace, but I mean, top half Premier League sides, and
Palace are one of the form teams in the league.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So you think, well, this is a great chance for Brighton, who have never won a major trophy. It's a great chance for, well, but only one team can win it. And Forest, again, for the majority of those fans, it'll feel like they've never won a major, you know what I mean, other than the songs and the history they know, because the last time they won something was it 1990, I think, the League Cup, or certainly you have to go back a fair few years. So for everybody left in the competition, a great opportunity, and Brighton just couldn't do it with that penalty shootout.
Let's talk about the penalty during the game, though. The penalty decision that was overturned during the game.
So Forest were given a penalty, and it was overturned because it was deemed that Matoma it was not judged a foul. It was kind of
an accident.
An accident, if you like.
So it's a really weird incident.
Shall I just clarify for people who didn't see it?
Yeah.
Basically, Elliot Anderson breaks into the penalty area, checks back, Matoma slides in, and Matoma's arm catches Elliot Anderson's foot, and it was adjudged at the time to have impeded him.
Yeah, clearly Matoma doesn't know anything about the foul, but he still brought him down.
Yeah, and to me, and perhaps
it still denies an opportunity, right?
I don't know if this is going to sound like a controversial take for the sake of it, but for the record, I do sincerely believe this. I could not believe that was overturned. Mm-hmm. And the reason it was overturned, because, of course, the referee, Peter Banks, who does sound like a character from Mary Poppins, was the main guy in Mary Poppins called Peter Banks.
That rings a bell.
The son and the daughter were called Jane and Michael. Who's the guy? Who's the banker that gets Mary Poppins in? Inadvertently, of course, because he thinks that he's gone against it, but then the magic means that she does turn up anyway.
George Banks.
George Banks,
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's important to clarify, I think.
Yeah. We can't move on until we've sorted that.
No, he says on the old speaker there was no foul committed. I mean, sorry to be like I say, the contrarian here, but Anderson checks back. He's in control of the ball. Matoma slides in unnecessarily. There's contact. Presumably, Peter Banks is looking at the video and thinking, Anderson's put his foot in there on purpose.
Yeah.
No, he's going to get contact. Anyway,
I don't think Anderson did, but I think...
To me, it's a fucking foul all day long. I can believe it was overturned. I thought, even the very worst case scenario... It's going to be one of those ones they're not going to overturn. Yeah. And if they hadn't given it and they looked it on the screen, they wouldn't have given it. It's in that within that threshold, within those parameters. The fact that he's got enough evidence to see that as a clear and obvious error and overturn it, I thought was astonishing. And as a result, I've got no dog in the fight whatsoever. As a result, I was pleased Forest went through, because I thought they should have had a penalty in the game.
What did you think of the incident, Jim?
Yeah, I didn't feel necessarily as stridently passionate as that. But I completely understand where it's coming from, because it is one of those ones where you go, oh, he's not meant it. And then you go, actually, does that matter? It shouldn't matter, because, again, it's the denial of the goal scoring opportunity. And he's not just like sliding off for an ice cream, is he? No. He is like, he's.
Do you ever slide off for an ice cream?
Well, an ice cream would have been a lovely bonus in that situation, but that's not the main motivation.
Yeah. I know you two-stepped off for an ice cream.
I've seen you moonwalk for an ice cream.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I will do anything for an ice cream. But that's not what we're talking about here. No. But yeah, I think Forest were hard done by there, yeah, for sure.
And I think from a coaching point of view,
yes,
we all know this because we all play football with our pals or for a team or whatever. You're coached not to go to ground like that, because that kind of thing can happen. So to get absolved of it, I think is very, very generous.
I think the fact that it was overturned, I think if it wasn't given, it's one of those ones. Because I think you're right. I think.
Did you think it was a pen?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I was a bit... like 60-40, I thought it was a penalty. And only because I have sympathy with the referee, that perhaps he thought that contact with Matoma was avoidable. No, but I don't think...
No, I don't think it was.
Well, I don't think Anderson has dangled his leg in there.
No, I don't either.
So exactly. So I ultimately come down on your side.
Massive amount of respect for the Brighton fans chucking £20 notes at the referee when he's looking at the monitor.
That was
nice stuff.
Yeah. Enjoyable, yeah.
It's mostly cashless these days, though.
Well, which is nice, but maybe that's why they took it. They thought it's going to be VAR. We know where our seats are. The monitor's close by. But what I would say to those Brighton fans is it didn't work. You need to get the 50s out.
You can't do 50s anymore. I think they're out of circulation.
You're joking.
Right.
Oh, no, the new ones aren't. The new ones are back.
What makes him even more valuable?
Yeah,
get your hands on some £50 notes.
Yeah.
And you're away. What about, do they still do £100 notes?
No.
Well, then again, the value of them would be more than £100.
Yeah. Football Ramble time tunnel. There's the place you want to test this theory.
You buy tickets for that in cash. Imagine that.
I'll be at the door on the night.
I'm sure I might have made this up, but I'm sure there was a gap between the old £50 notes going out of circulation and the new ones coming in. But I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure you can't get £100.
I don't think I ever owned one, so I'll take your word for it.
I can't remember you ever being able to get £100 note. Surely that was like...
No, I was talking about 50.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Best I got was a £25 note.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
But yeah, so Forest are through, despite the sort of, I suppose, relative gamble that Nuno played in not playing his better side.
So I get Rooney's point on that. I do think, you got an opportunity there.
With Hudson-Odoi and Elanga on the bench with those particular.
They play tomorrow night, though, don't they?
Exactly.
Which is where this comes from.
That's what I was going to go on to say. The thing, it's almost like in that category of nice problem to have, right? Because Nuno basically has to decide whether they consolidate a top 4 position further in a very winnable game at home to Manchester United, or they prioritise trying to get to an FA Cup semi-final. He's got to make a decision one way or another. And I think if he had played them, and we don't know the condition they're in, they're redlining or whatever. Nuno knows that better than us. I think Rooney's a bit old school at that point, but I did kind of understand it because you're not in Forest. Getting to an FA Cup semi-final is a big deal. But ultimately, the gamble paid off anyway.
Well, it did, and they're through. And he did say that he wanted to play players who he's played more in the Cup. He said, you've got to keep everybody happy. And I suppose one of the things that he has done well is have that squad harmony. They're all buying into it. And it is a difficult one for a manager because if you set your stall out and say, right, well, you guys are going to be more in the Cups, and those players repay that faith to you and get you into a quarter-final, you then go, right, it's crunch time now. All right, cheers, lads. I'm going to put these other ones in. Players could get a bit pissed off with that, and you've got to be careful.
And Marcus, I think totally, and I think the dilemma could come back.
They're not crap players that he's put in. Do you know?
No. But the dilemma could grow legs at the end of next month because they're going to play a semi-final, which will be obviously a massive game against Man City. That's right at the end of April. They could be in a position there where they're thinking we could get into the Champions League here.
But I think you've got to go for the Cup, though, haven't you?
Nottingham Forest in the Champions League, mate.
Yeah, but Nottingham Forest winning the FA Cup.
Yeah,
they're not going to win the Champions League.
It'd be very interesting to see what happens if there is any hint that it could be one or the other.
Well, I mean, but you don't have to choose. You can go for both.
They're also going to need to improve massively. I mean, since they've beaten Luton in the Cup, but Luton are having a historically bad season. They're going to get relegated out of the Championship this season, probably. They've snuck through every single game, I think, since then. So, I mean, they're not going to... I mean, I'll say
it's working, isn't it?
Maybe they can shithouse their way to a Man City penalty win. I don't know.
That would be amusing for Nottingham Forest fans and possibly other fans around the country. Preston North End were ultimately gubbed 3-0 at home by Aston Villa. Marcus Rashford is back, baby. Scored his first Aston Villa goals to send them through. A tap-in and a penalty.
What, was it a tap-in? It seems unfair.
Yeah, it was a lovely move.
Lovely move. And he still had a little bit to do.
A slot in.
It's a slot in.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I suppose you could count any goal scored with a foot as a tap-in if you really wanted to. But I think it'd be harsh to consider that one a tap-in.
To me, a tap-in has to be
6-yard box.
A fully open goal in the 6-yard box.
Okay, fine. So I've changed my mind. It's a slot in.
It's a slot in, yeah.
I did enjoy his penalty because the goalkeeper was trying his damnedest, wasn't he, to put him off.
We're getting to the point now, because Rashford there with that penalty was absolutely pushing the limit of what's acceptable, what's legal.
But that's the thing, though. Like so many players do it. But when the goalkeeper, I was surprised that Rashford handed the ball to the goalkeeper at that point because the keeper came out, didn't he, and said, "Oh yeah, I obviously wanted to feel the ball, whatever it was."
Show confidence, I guess.
Well, indeed, and the keeper and the keeper was very much chatting away to Rashford, and then when he steps up, you can see him chatting away, and then he says, "I'm not moving, I'm staying here," kind of thing. Yeah. And Rashford was like, "Well, we'll see about that.
I'm going to have a little dance."
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you think about that?
And I can dance for as long as I want because the rules allow me to. And he put the keeper the wrong way.
Also, it was a. Do you know what the penalty reminded me of? It was a very Jorginho-esque penalty, wasn't it?
Without the little jump, yeah.
Didn't look at the ball though. At all.
Yeah, I think the hop and the skip is important in the Jorginho
It
style,
is, but I think the principle's the same. The execution's slightly different, but the principle's the same. You delay the run-up as much as you can. You never take your eyes off the keeper, and you make your move. Jorginho adds a little flourish where he jumps because it means that it puts the goalkeeper off his rhythm.
Well, Bruno Fernandes used to do that as well.
Didn't put Jordan Pickford off his rhythm, no, did it?
It all in vain.
yeah, but in that particular... Yeah. They lost the war, but that little battle they won, didn't they?
Indeed.
And I think really the story here was just a step too far for Preston. It took Aston Villa a while to break them down.
They were always going to.
I thought they were pretty game.
First half, Preston were, the tails were up. It was really, really loud in that stadium. It looked like it kind of could go either way, but yeah.
Well, much like Fulham, you've got to score when you're on top.
Yeah, exactly.
They had to get the crowd. They had to see, all right, get a goal, see how long we can keep them going. And they just didn't manage that because they're playing a far superior side.
And Preston's story of Preston's season is really one of total inconsistency, right? They're a painfully mid-table Championship side. They, like I say, are inconsistent. They don't really follow up results one after the other, and you can't really do that even at home against a team with this amount of quality in it. I mean, they just got broken down.
But credit to them, it's their best FA Cup run since 1966, and they
Great
did all
year
right.
for English football.
Well, indeed, Eric Cantona was born, and the League Cup as well. They had a good showing in that. But Villa are through to the FA Cup. They're playing against Crystal Palace, which, if we look at the league, that would be. On paper, you would argue that was probably the best draw they could hope for. Even though I think it's with seeing Palace up close and personal and so on, I think they'll take some beating. But Villa,
they are listed as the home team in the semi-final, which will go against them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, indeed. But they're in an FA Cup semi-final. Villa, they're in the Champions League quarter-finals, 9th in the Premier League, but they're only 4 points off 4th place. A lot to play for. People were concerned for them. That this extra load would make them struggle. It's helped, I suppose, that there are a lot of teams in there from 10th to 4th now. I think Forest are pulling away.
It's the most interesting part of the table.
It is, yeah, and they're very much in the mix of that. They've got a huge Champions League tie in Paris Saint-Germain. And I think what Palace will be hoping for is that they get through that tie, because the semi-final of the Champions League and the FA Cup would be around the same time.
Yeah,
so that's
heavy load.
Yeah, that's what Palace will be hoping for.
Yeah,
but they're having a decent season so far. I've learned my lesson from the Bournemouth chat.
But Marcus, I think based on those stats you just read out there,
yes,
where they've got to in each competition, you have to come to the conclusion they followed up last season with a great season this season.
Exactly.
Because in the back of your mind, if you're just thinking about the Premier League in isolation, you kind of think, they've dropped off a bit. But actually, they've only lost one of their last 10 in all competitions. The nature of that part of the table is so close that actually, given the form they're in, won 5 in a row now, they win a couple more off the back of that, they're going to be, 5th, 6th, and still looking to possibly repeat it. So I think actually Emery deserves an amazing amount of credit. Again, they strengthened really well in January.
That's a key part of it, isn't it? Rashford and Asensio and the little bromance they've immediately developed has been a massive boon to them and has really given them a kind of a shot in the arm. And if you look at the position they're in, obviously in a FA Cup semi-final, Champions League quarter-final, 4 points off 4th, but in a foot race, essentially, to see out the last part of the season, those two are going to be absolutely essential to that, because they just look so deep now, especially in an attacking sense.
Yeah, I look, if they suddenly find themselves out of both competitions and then they drop down, but I don't think that's going to happen. And with the Champions League as well, unless they got absolutely battered and embarrassed by PSG, they can still hold their heads high. Totally. I think they'll give them a game, but we saw that PSG were pretty handy.
I think PSG will knock them out, but there's absolutely right. There's no shame in that.
Exactly, yeah. So, Cup semi-final, they're having a great one.
The key thing, I think, for them is getting back into the Champions League, isn't it? Once you've got a taste of it, you want that again.
Definitely, and again,
it's a delicious biscuit, isn't it?
Absolutely,
it is. And
one of those McVitie's digestive caramels.
Oh,
yeah.
Do you know what? I was going to say it's like a fox cream.
Yeah, I think
it's one of those fancy border ones.
Oh yeah, border's nice. I think the McVitie's caramel of the high street biscuits. You're not reaching up for the top shelf to get a McVitie's caramel. That's the Rolls Royce of your Communal Garden biscuits. I like a Borders. Don't get me wrong, the little selection ones, they're delicious. And I'd also like a Fox's cream. But I'm not having a Fox's cream above a McVitie's caramel.
Yeah, but I think the McVitie's caramel is the FA Cup win, whereas the Fox's cream is a Champions League spot.
Well, this is the European.
Yeah, I'm not
League.
against that. I'm not against that.
See what I mean? Because the Fox's cream, if you were to just given one of those, you'd want more. You wouldn't feel like you'd won the day.
Listen, Aston Villa, what we're saying is get those croissants and shove them back down their fucking throats and tell them they're having a biscuit with their cup of tea.
Now you're talking. Hey, this is the kind of chat we want.
Shove a fucking croissant down their gullets.
Oh, dear.
Get it done.
Yeah.
Get it done.
Yeah.